morning or whenever you watch this video, hypothetical viewer. Not really sure. I mean, it could be morning, afternoon, night. You just really never know. So, holidays are over. We're going to take a look back at some of the fights we went through in 2022 and what we might expect to see in 2023. Just kind of get a 60,000 foot view of the picture, broad strokes, see what's going on. Also, don't forget, channel's currently demonetized with likely no chance of ever being monetized again, so shop at onlytacticalfans.com. There isn't any merchandise there because you guys are animals and you sold out the complete store, but there will be some soon. Anywho, Santa brought you guys a Christmas present. Huzzah! So much better than the whiteboard, because what the whiteboard was doing was reflecting light back into the camera, washing out my lens, giving me poor quality, plus you guys complained you couldn't see what was written on the whiteboard. Hopefully this is better. This is the first time I'm using it in front of the camera, so trial run. Might have to move it in a different position depending on how the lights are angling down, reflected off the moon, coming through the swamp gas of Venus, and that's we'll have to do some testing. So let's get on with the video. Couple of things we did 2022 that we're still probably going to be doing in 2023. A big one is red flag laws / due process. Recently in New York, a federal judge said that that's unconstitutional, and it is. Due process is a valuable part of how our government works, how our justice system works. Essentially, say you're not from America, the rough breakdown of it is you're not guilty until you've been found guilty. So they can't just point at you and be like, you know, he's guilty, go arrest him, strip him of all his rights, throw him in a cage. Due process says that no, that can't happen. You can accuse him of something, and then a jury of his peers, should they find him guilty, now you can strip his rights, arrest him, throw him in a cage. And red flag laws was a circumvent. It basically lost Trump's presidency. Whether or not there was cheating, I'm not going to argue yes or no, but he lost by a small margin, and if he went to did that and one other thing, it probably wouldn't have mattered. He probably still would have won.
So no one's rights are trampled, but the ability to go to court, obtain an order, and then collect not only the firearms, but any weapons in the possession
Or
of that
might
individual.
take the firearms first and then go to court, because that's another system, because a lot of times by the time you go to court, it takes so long to go to court to get the due process procedures. I like taking the guns early.
That's how big of a deal that is. But anyway, so essentially what he said is just go arrest people and then we'll go through the laundry and determine who is or who is not a criminal. Remember, a crime hasn't even happened yet. Like, this is just the potential. So do they have enough potential to say, yes, they are a criminal? And if so, you know they're guilty. Again, no crime has been committed. You can't charge somebody for a crime they never committed. And that's a big deal. I do feel like other federal judges will jump on board and red flag laws will ultimately be shut down. We'll have to see. That was a huge blunder in American history. When the history books come out, 10, 100 years from now, they're going to look at that and be like, yeah, that was crazy. We almost sunk the ship right there. Like, we need to learn from that. That is something that can't happen. The next thing is felons under indictment. Again, this all boils back down to due process. They haven't been convicted of anything yet, but a federal prosecutor said that they think they may have broken a law. So we're going to put them under indictment and take them to trial. Until the jury of their peers says, yes, the federal prosecutor's right, they broke the law, they shouldn't have their rights stripped. But that's not the way it is in the country right now. They have a law called 922G, and essentially, it's not a law really rule. It gets really wishy-washy with the ATF because they're not allowed to create laws, but they create them all the time. And we're trying to find this balance. Anywho, so a federal judge in Texas is like, he wasn't convicted of anything yet. Why is his rights stripped away? Why is he getting in trouble for a crime you haven't even proved he did or did not do yet? And this all boils down to the question of, why in the actual are you out of jail if you're not safe enough to be on the street? The whole point is when you get released from the prison system, 100% of your rights are back and you acclimate yourself back into the world. When you start taking away rights and things like that, it makes it that much harder to acclimate yourself back in the world. Plus, you're wrapped in red tape. Next thing you get pulled over for a pocket knife and they call it a concealed weapon, and now you get another 10 years in prison?
Any weapons, any weapons, any weapons.
For a pocket knife? Or a gun? Or some ammunition? Like, you're setting the ex-convict, depends on the person, allegedly an ex-convict up for failure. You're taking away a bunch of his rights and you're wrapping them in red tape and you're just setting them out there, just fishing out there, waiting to reel them back in. I seen the stats a while ago and it's something like 80% of people that get released go back in. That's a problem. Not having your rights restored is not a problem. This is something new in America. This is something we recently started doing. So what is the problem? Why do 80% of the people go back in, and how can we change that? I think getting rid of 922G, 922, basically anything with USC 922, just wiping that all away, we will see a prison population reduced. When you pull the stats, it's a lot. It's something like 30 people a day get arrested for nonviolent gun crimes. I haven't looked at the stats recently, so that may not be 100% accurate, but it's way more than 10. It's 365 days in a year. That adds up very, very quickly. That's a huge percent of the prison population. They haven't broken any other law. They haven't hurt anyone. They just so happen to get caught with a gun that may be too long, too short, too small, too big, the wrong color, the number on it isn't quite legible. Stuff like that is just filling our prison systems. It's a huge problem. It needs to be dealt with. So hopefully that'll get taken care of. The next things that we ran into is frames and receivers, the case I'm involved in, silencers, basically 922.0, NFA tax stamp. So is that a tax when it's not collectible? And the answer is no. So why is it still there? And that is basically the prohibition on machine guns, because they can't take machine guns away. That goes against the Second Amendment. So what they did is they put a tax on it. And then later they're like, well, we're just not going to collect the tax anymore, which makes the tax a not legitimate tax. So that hopefully will be a problem that will get resolved. Will that happen in 2023? Yeah, I doubt it. I just don't see that happening. I would love to, but I don't think we're quite there yet. We've hit a fulcrum point basically when the lockdowns happened, and it's just been going positively back to bringing our rights back, because clearly we f***ed up. That's a problem there. That was an issue. Everybody recognizes it as an issue. That was a f*** up. That needs to be corrected. But it takes time. There was years and years, and our grandparents and our dads just not doing anything about it, and all these problems kept building, and I think they came to a head at the lockdown. Then it was right up and in front of everybody's face, and now it's starting to correct itself back. Obviously, we'd like to see 100% correction. Should that happen, it's going to take a couple of generations. The generations are being raised differently now, so I think it will happen. It's just really a question of when. Is it going to happen tomorrow? No. Is it going to happen in my lifetime? I would love that. That would be really, really cool. Will it? Man, I'm looking at something else like weed. When I was a kid, there were songs that were taboo talking about legalizing it, like Cypress Hill. But that was just a pipe dream. That would never happen. Now I'm an adult, and it looks very promising that that's going to happen. So, it's possible this happens in my lifetime. I'm thinking it will likely be, though, more in my kid's lifetime, where all that shit is just gone. They realize they made a huge mistake. It's all been corrected. So anyway, with those, frames and receivers, all that stuff, it basically comes to the question of, can the ATF be weaponized? Is that okay? Are we okay with the ATF being weaponized? Because essentially what the ATF is doing is saying that we will determine when and what law you broke, and should we make a new law that specifically encompasses you, so in the event you upset somebody in power, they can send us in, we will go into your house, come up with a law you broke, and then charge you for it. Is that or is that not okay? Is the ATF allowed to be weaponized? And all of these boil down to the question, is the Second Amendment a second-class right reserved for the rich and powerful? Whether or not you like it, or you're from another country and you don't understand how it works, or whatever your opinions are, the fact of the matter is, it is verifiably true, our system of government has worked quite well for 200 years. Well, over 200 years, but you get the idea. Whether or not you like it, in America, there are more guns than people. Whether or not you like it, in America, we have more freedom than I'm pretty sure any other country in the world. Whether or not you like it, the little people in America have a voice. Now, is that directly related to the Second Amendment? A lot of people will say yes. I'm not going to argue yes or no. What I am going to argue is all of it, the Constitution, all of it, together, has given us what we have today. So in my little lizard brain that just can't comprehend things, that just doesn't understand shit, is don't change anything because it's working. Why fix it till it's broke? Why do that? It works. It has worked for a very long time. Don't change a thing. And that's what we're ultimately coming to. Should the Second Amendment stay in the Constitution? Yes or no? My opinion, yes. Because it works. It has worked. And it will continue to work as long as nothing gets changed. I think the closest we came to things not working were the lockdowns. But again, that put it right in front of people's faces to where they couldn't ignore it, and a lot more people that were just like, you know, I'm get along to be along, you know, I just want to flow through the system, are like, that's a problem. Maybe not for me necessarily, but my kids, my grandkids, this needs to be addressed. Anyways, we'll have to see how things play out in 2023. I have high hopes. You just never know, though. But again, don't forget to shop at OnlyFans, OnlyTacticalFans.com, and Shopify. Thank you for watching. That's the best way to support my channel. Oh, on my Patreon. You can donate to the channel directly through PayPal. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe.